Welcome to my lecture on the brain and spinal cord. This chapter will be covered in many videos. Each video will be about 15 minutes in length. So, right now, we are going to focus on the anatomical terms related to the brain. We'll contrast gray matter and white matter, and we'll match terms related to the brain. As of the recording of this material appears on the third lecture unit. So, the brain and the spinal cord. They're part of your central nervous system. So your brain here, the spinal cord. They integrate incoming signals. So if you remember last chapter, we have afferent signals coming in. They go up the spine, they'll go somewhere in the brain, and they will be integrated. The brain integrates it, then sends a signal back out on an efferent neuron. So again, afferent goes in, efferent comes out. Now, the spinal cord is important because it integrates reflexes. So my example last class, we have a pin or a tack, and you step on it. The signal goes to the spinal cord on an afferent neuron, where the spinal cord integrates it and then sends the signal back out on an efferent neuron. So there's our efferent neuron. So again, afferent neurons go in, efferents come out, and the spine will integrate these reflexes. Now, the major regions of the brain. What you think of the brain, all this wrinkly thing right here, that is the cerebrum. So the cerebrum is what you think of as your wrinkly brain. The diencephalon is the middle part of your brain. It's the purple right here. And that's actually a very important part. It's a routing station for the brain. It has the hypothalamus attached. I was told always to guess hypothalamus. Hypothalamus is right there. The midbrain is the next part of the brain. And the midbrain is this little tiny sliver. It has the substantia nigra, it has the tegmentum, it has some important regions. And the reason this is separate from the brainstem right here is that it is from a different developmental part of the nervous system. So it gets to be its own thing, developed from something called the mesencephalon. Lastly, the brainstem and the cerebellum make up the hindbrain. So the hindbrain is actually the cerebellum right here, and the brainstem, the pretty pons right here, the medulla oblongata right here. That is part of both considered the hindbrain. So cerebellum, what you think of as the brain, the largest part. Diencephalon, this little room inside, that's very important. The thin but important midbrain. And the hindbrain is the pons, the medulla oblongata, and the cerebellum. So it's a little confusing. Midbrain's its own region, but it's included as part of the brainstem. Very frustrating. So, some directional terms. Rostral. Imagine your nose right here, and your nose has a gigantic nostril. So towards your nose and your nostril is rostral. So rostral is towards the nose. Now imagine Scooby-Doo saying nostril. He would say, "Rostral, Shaggy!" So that is towards the front. So I might ask you, what lobe is rostral? Well, what lobe would this be? I really hope you said frontal. Now, caudal. Caudal actually means tail. Our heads are put on weird compared to all other animals. Caudal, when you refer to the brain, is towards the back here. So the occipital lobe, which I just colored on, is caudal. Now, you'll notice that the brain is full of wrinkles. Oops, didn't mean to write. So the brain has all of these wrinkles right here. Look at all these wrinkles, and those wrinkles, and those wrinkles. It's really wrinkly. that is called a gyrus. Plural is gyri. So the gyri are all of these wrinkles right there. Now, in between the wrinkles are grooves. Not groves, grooves. These grooves are called sulci, which is plural, or sulcus. So this groove is a groove right here. That is called a sulcus. Have we heard sulcus or sulci before? It's on the bone that thinks it's funny. Correct, the intertrabecular sulcus. That's a groove between the two tubercles. So a sulcus is just grooves between the raised gyri. Then a center is part of the brain that has a definite function or a defined function. So our occipital lobe back here, that is the primary visual cortex. That is what makes sense of what you see. Guess what cortex is right here next to your ear? On the temporal lobe. Yep, the primary auditory or acoustic cortex. So a center is part of the brain that has a defined function. So I like Broca's area right there. That would be a center. It is part of the brain that has a defined function. And I just like saying Wernicke on the temporal lobe right here, actually between the temporal and parietal, is Wernicke's area. That is another center, but I will leave that for another class. Now, if we were to look at the brain, we would see we have deep white matter right here and a superficial gray matter. So gray matter, as we talked about in the last class, is cell bodies. So we have cell bodies right there. I am not using my stylus right now, so my writing is going to be extra horrible. And it's found in the cortex here. So the outer part of the brain is the cortex. And the white matter tends to be deep. So all this red right here, that's the white matter. White matter is myelinated axons. Now, the myelinated axons are going to form something called tracks. This isn't what Thomas the Tank Engine goes on. This is myelinated axons that connect different parts of the brain. So right here is a tract called the corpus callosum. It's a big body, and that connects your left brain with your right brain. Now, what was gray matter again? Correct. Cell bodies. So I have cell bodies out here, but I actually have some gray matter right there that's surrounded by white matter. That is a nuclei, or more importantly, a cerebral nuclei. That's gray matter surrounded by white matter. So on the test, if I ask you where gray matter is, you would have to tell me in the cortex, which is superficial, and in these nuclei, which is gray matter surrounded by white matter. So the white matter tracks are going to surround the nuclei. So, students get confused all the time. What is a center? What is a nucleus? A center is a group of cell bodies that perform an identifiable function. So this right here, this is the post-central gyrus, right? Remember, the gyruses are the raised regions. And the center is somatic sensory. So this is your general S-E-N-S-E. So this is your general sense from all of your body. This is the precentral gyrus. That one is a raised region, so it's a gyrus. This is the primary motor area. I'm sorry it's so hard to write. That is going to send signals to your arms and your legs. Broca's area. Remember I said Broca's area is a center? That is right there. So a center is anywhere that has an identifiable function. A nucleus is gray matter surrounded by white matter. All nucleuses will be centers. So the centers from the other screen, that was the Putnam, the basal ganglia, the basal nuclei, those are all have identifiable functions. Now out here, these centers, the primary somatic sensory area, primary visual cortex, Wernicke's area, I just like saying Wernicke, Those are all in the cortex, so they would not be nuclei. So all nuclei are centers, but not all centers are nuclei. So many centers are found in the cerebral cortex. Now, a tract. A tract is a bundle of myelinated axons that connect one part of the central nervous system to another. So it can connect the centers. What was a center again? That's right, something that has an identifiable function. And a nuclei. What's a nuclei again? Gray matter surrounded by white matter. So this right here in the spinal cord is nuclei. So tracts bridge centers and nuclei. So right here, we have this humongous tract that connects the left and the right brain. It is called the corpus callosum, and it's connecting left and right. Over here, we have a tract right here. Red on red, I'm sure looks perfect. This is called the spinal thalamic tract. That is taking all the pain and temperature signals up from the spinal cord to the brain. So pain signals come in here, they go over to the spinal thalamic tract, and it tells you you just stepped on a rusty nail. So, matching. Match the part of the brain with its function. Oops, I already did it for you. I am sorry. So a center is a part of the brain with identifiable function. Gray matter is myelinated axon. Oops, this is not the right answers. I am sorry. So, a center is part of the brain with an identifiable function. Gray matter. What's gray matter again? Oh yeah, it's cell bodies. So, there's cell bodies. So it is E, cell bodies and dendrites of neurons. What's a nuclei? It is gray matter surrounded by white matter. Rostral, towards the nose. A sulci is a groove, and a tract is myelinated axons going from one place to another place. So what did I forget here? Gyri. So gyri are the raised ridges. So this completes our lecture on the parts of our vocabulary terms, and we will be moving on to the parts of the cerebrum. Thank you.